Welcome everyone. I'm Rachel Matheson. I'm the project manager at Carers and Employers, and before starting the session, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon where I'm situated, which is in North Sydney, and those are the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And I'd like to extend my respects to the traditional custodians of the land from all who are joining us today. By way of housekeeping, we've got a really full event today with lots to share with you. So as such, we won't be taking questions and answers. But what we will ask you to do is if there's something you'd like to know, just to put that into the chat function. And we'll be saving all those that chat from the webinar, and we can respond to that via email post-webinar. Today's webinar is all about developing a carer-friendly workplace. There is a reason that we chose this week for the webinar, and that's because it's Carers Week, when we recognise and thank carers for all the wonderful, unpaid, valuable work that they do. Carers contribute to the care of others, the community, and also the economy. In terms of economic contribution alone, Deloitte Access Economics has estimated that if all the hours of informal care in 2020 were replaced with paid formal care services, that replacement cost would come to $66.9 billion, and that's a staggering amount. You'll see in front of you now the session plan for today. And after hearing from me, I'll be handing over to 7 panellists from 6 of our network employers who will take you through some of the strategies and practices their workplace has to recognise and support carers. But firstly, just to give you some a brief background and a little bit of context, Carers and Employers about Carers and Employers project. And also just sort of to lend us some legitimacy as to what gives us the information and background to be able to bring this webinar to you today. Carers and Employers is a project of Carers New South Wales, and it's funded by the New South Wales Government. Whilst based out of Carers New South Wales, the program has the support of the carer associations throughout Australia. It offers employers nationally an accreditation program so that they may be formally recognised as having carer-friendly workplaces. The program has established a best practice framework for supporting carers in the workplace, and this informs the criteria for accreditation and also the content for this webinar. So, who are carers? Getting the definition of who carers are articulated is important. In a workplace context, it is important that this definition is used consistently across the organisation. Having a clear definition enables individuals to self-identify and be linked to resources and supports that are specific to their needs. This definition comes from the Carer Recognition Act, and it refers to carers that provide that unpaid care across all those conditions you can see on the screen there. Often people don't identify as a carer, and they see themselves through their relationship with the person they provide care for. For example, I'm just a daughter who looks after my mother. Now, as you'd expect, carers are a diverse group, and how they differ impacts on their identification, their experience, and also their access to supports. In terms of numbers, we know there are approximately 2.65 million carers in Australia, although some estimates are putting that at around 2.8 million for this year. This means that around 1 in 9 of Australians are carers. So caring is likely to affect employees at some stage, whether they're caring now, whether they'll care for someone in the future, whether they work with carers, whether they manage carers, or whether they will require care for themselves. Now, caring starts in different ways for different people. Caring for a family member or a friend may start in small ways, and over time, gradually the need for care may increase. And this is not uncommon as people age. Before we look at carers in the context of employment, I should make it clear that the care people provide for others can be emotional support, it can be time spent navigating those systems such as My Aged Care or the National Disability Insurance Scheme, as well as assisting with things like mobility, medications, providing meals or transport, to name just a few. Now, looking at carers in that employment context, participating in paid employment offers many benefits to carers, including social and economic benefits. For example, it enables carers to earn extra income and build up superannuation for retirement, to gain independence when participating in the workforce, and have those important social contacts and build self-esteem. It can also sometimes be a respite from their caring responsibilities and provide that life outside of caring. Now, there are many issues and challenges that come with combining work and care, and as you'd expect, these vary from carer to carer. Carers can face questions such as, how many hours do I need to spend providing care? What are the crucial hours of the day I'm needed? What happens if paid care services aren't reliable? And how will I manage emergencies? When an organisation understands the pressures their employees may encounter and they indicate where support can be found, they are building a culture of care. Now, if workplaces don't have a carer-friendly culture, there is the potential for a negative stigma to be attached to caring, with these employees being seen as less dedicated, committed, or career-oriented. So it is important that workplaces are carer-friendly and that they have signposts to signal helpful policies, workplace supports, or even external supports, so that when carers are under pressure and they might think about, for example, giving up work, employees don't lose their jobs and employers don't lose that valuable talent from organisations. Okay, just thought it was worthwhile mentioning too that there is a regulatory framework for employers to be considering. For example, under the Fair Work Act, carers have the right to request flexible work arrangements once certain eligibility requirements have been met. Obviously, offering above minimum standards is what we're striving for. For example, mainstreaming flexible work where possible, as this is so valuable to carers. Right, so we've built, at Carers and Employers, we've built a framework around 5 key focus areas. But before I go through these, sometimes the first step in building a carer-friendly workplace is to consult and understand the carer population in your workplace. Consider using staff surveys to monitor the number, nature, and needs of carers across the organisation. Looking at that first key focus area, carer recognition, we've discussed having a clear and consistent definition used across the organisation being so important. Often the term carer and parent is used interchangeably, but it is important that carers are recognised in their own right. In terms of policies and procedures, we look at those sorts of policies that focus on things like flexible work, leave and carers leave. And are these easy to locate? And better yet, is there a flexible working policy? And we're going to hear a little bit more about how valuable flexible working is later in the presentation. In terms of that capacity building focus area, we're looking at things like what training and education is offered. Are managers confident in managing staff with caring responsibilities? And are they aware of the carer complexities and challenges many carers face? Then that fourth key focus area around communication and awareness, we're looking to see that messages not only are positive and consistent, but also that they're communicated regularly. And when they're communicated by leadership and throughout the organisation, that is really helping to build a carer-friendly culture. Lastly, we've got that practical workplace support key focus area. And we know that carers can have low levels of well-being, and grief and loss can even be part of the carer experience. So here we look to see if an employee assistance program is offered. In some organisations, employee group networks operate specifically to support carers. A quiet room to take calls, or even a poster in a staff room promoting external resources can be an effective support. Okay, and just to round off, it's important to think about supporting carers across the full employee life cycle, from recruitment, retention, promotion, and training, for example. Right now, the pressure's off me, and I'm going to hand over to representatives from 6 of the employers in our network. It's been my privilege to get to know these wonderful people who will provide us with a glimpse inside their workplace, and so that we can look, learn, and gain insight and inspiration as to what is possible when thinking about carer support. You'll see the speakers on the screen now. I'm going to keep my introductions short and allow the speakers to introduce themselves. From Suncorp, I'll hand over to Katharina Behin. Thank you, Katharina.
Thanks, Rachel. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Rachel and carers and employers for inviting me along today to chat to you about what Suncorp does for our employees across Australia and New Zealand who are carers. As Rachel said, my name is Katharina Behin, and I am joining you from Gadigal country today, from sunny inner west of Sydney in the Eora Nation. I acknowledge that I live, love and work on unceded Aboriginal land. I wish to pay my respects to leaders past, present, those emerging for our future, and to any First Nation folks who are on the webinar today with us. So Suncorp is at the beginning of its journey, really, in developing a carer-friendly workplace. And we're doing this because enabling carers to balance life and work and caring responsibilities is fast becoming essential employment practice. And I think we could hear some of that through Rachel's statistic that she presented just now. We're on this journey because we also know that carers come from all walks of life. We saw that in Rachel's slide, all ages, all genders, all whānau and family structures, all cultures and ethnicities. And we want to support all of our employees. We want to truly create an inclusive workplace, and that includes being inclusive of carers. We also know that there are broader benefits. Millions of dollars of unpaid work into the economy every year. We know there are broader community benefits. We want to reflect our community and our customer bases. So that's the why, the quick and the dirty of the why Suncorp are doing this. And what I'd like to do now, technology pending, is what I'd like to do is show you the who of carers at Suncorp. So I'd like to introduce you to Zung Dang. And Zung is a manager in our employee council team. So he already takes care of employees across Suncorp. Not only does he do that, but he's also a carer. So I'd like you to hear directly from Zung and his story.
Hi everyone, my name is Zung Dang. I'm a primary carer and I work full-time as a manager at Suncorp. I'm very proud to be a carer, and I feel very privileged today to share my story with everyone. My story is quite personal. It involves my partner of over 10 years who was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer a couple of years ago before I joined Suncorp. And before joining Suncorp, I made the absolute commitment to myself that I would continue to provide the best care I could and also juggle any work responsibilities as well. So being a primary carer, my partner requires care of such as bathing, getting dressed, tying his shoes, but also other duties such as, cooking, cleaning, handling admin, and of course driving him to the hospital as well for treatment. So when it came to work and working for Suncorp, I wanted to make sure that I could balance my work life as well and still care for my partner. And if I could sum up in one word that would describe Suncorp's working arrangements, it would be flexibility. Suncorp have been fantastic, and they've been very supportive. My leader, my manager, and the business themselves offer multiple carer options such as carers leave, mental and physical support services, and also the diversity inclusion team at Suncorp make it so comfortable for carers such as myself to be open, to share our experiences and feel supported by the community. And I have been so blessed, but also I'm so thankful that I work for an employer who recognises carers, but also leaders who know when employees may be doing a bit tough and juggling, that work-life balance, and that it's recognised that carers can actually speak up if they're struggling, and also receive that support when they need it. So my personal story at Suncorp and a carer is very much something that I want to share with everyone, and to let everyone know that it's a great place to work, especially if you're a carer. So thank you for listening, and I hope I've shared some insight into what it's like to be a carer and working for Suncorp. Thank you.
I feel like if we were all together, if we were lucky enough to all together be in a room, we would be having a round of applause for Zung. So I'm just going to do a bit of a webinar round of applause for Zung. And I think that, if you ever need to talk about the business case for supporting carers in your workplace, hearing Zung speak, such an incredibly talented, caring person, to be part of your organization and to be an amazing representative and build your own brand, it's a bit of a no-brainer, I believe. So that's the why and the who for us. I'll just spend a quick, maybe 2 minutes telling you about the how. As I said, we are very much at the beginning of our journey, but I have up here a list of some of the things that we've been doing to date. And really for us, it's all about creating a culture where, as Zung said, they feel that they are supported, and carers feel like they not only have the policies, the procedures, the leave, etc., the bare minimum that Rachel referred to earlier, but they also have a group of peers around them that understand, and they also have leaders who understand. So for us, one of the first things that we decided to do was create a one-stop shop, if you will, online on our intranet for all employees who are carers. And on this intranet page, they have access to everything and anything we could possibly think of to help them. And we have, of course, consulted with carers within the organization. What resources do you need? What would be handy to have all together so that you don't have to click through 3 or 4 pages to find that leave section? So that's our one-stop shop carers intranet page. We've also developed leader resources specifically for leaders of carers, but also resources around some of the things they may face if they're caring for somebody who has a disability, if they're caring for somebody who's frail-aged. So we have developed guides for them also, so that they'll have a little bit of an idea of who their team member or who their employee is dealing with every day and what they face. Education and awareness, I think we can all agree, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing from everyone else today. I think we can all agree in the inclusion space that education and awareness has got to be one of the first things that you embark on and continue through the whole life of what you're doing. So for example, yesterday we had 2 webinars, one in New Zealand and one in Australia for Carers Week, to celebrate our carers and chat about what we can do for them and what they can do for us as an organization, but also making sure that we have that information available for all employees. So on our learning management system that's referred to there, Cognita, we've created a learning pathway that you can enroll on, and it has a bunch of resources in there. So not just your guidelines and your PDF one-pagers and your policy documents, but also your TED Talks, little articles, research, all of the great stuff that carers and employers have on their website. We've very gratefully taken and putting on that Cognita learning pathway as well. Again, just trying to make it simple and easy for folks. Of course, bare minimum, if we're talking about policy, carers are included in the Suncorp diversity and inclusion policy, specifically called out as a protected attribute. We have carers leave, which Zung referred to. Carers are called out in our flexible leave policy and our working flexibly policies. Working flexibly is very common in Suncorp. I've been there for 2 years now, and I am very fortunate to also take advantage of flexible leave. So benefits everyone in the organization. We have an employee resource group called Enable, and they have been set up to support employees with disability and accessibility requirements, carers, and advocates of that space. So anybody who wants to be an ally for carers and employees with disabilities. And they're focusing on education and training, and also helping out with that gap analysis of where are there any inherent bias in our systems and practices? Are we forgetting carers along the way somewhere? And they're helping us out with that, which is fantastic to have that voice of the community. We have achieved level 1 Activate certification. Thank you very much, Rachel, and carers and employers for that. It's wonderful to have achieved that first step, and we're excited to keep going. And I guess that I put in the bottom bullet point really because, again, if we want to talk about business case and employment, we want to talk about measuring, right? You have to measure things. And so for us, we've been looking at the past 2 years, we've been looking at not just the representation of carers across our organization, but also their engagement levels. And we've been able to, over the past couple of years, really narrow down who our carers are. So we went from 76% of our employees identifying as carers to really narrowing down and understanding that a vast majority of those carers were parents. And so we've broken out parental responsibility, care of a frail aged person, care of a person with mental illness, care of physical illness, disability. We've really been able to break that up. And so currently we can say that we have 18.5% of our employee population who are carers outside of parental care. And we have been able to lift their engagement scores over the past 2 years. That's it in a nutshell. I don't want to take any more time from the other wonderful speakers that we have today. Thank you so much for listening. And we are very pleased to be part of this journey with carers and employers, and can't wait for the next steps. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Katharina. I'm humbled to be part of working with Suncorp and all the employers here today. So next up, I'm really pleased to introduce Priya Vishwanathan from the University of Technology in Sydney.
So I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which we meet. For me, this is the Darug people, and I would like to acknowledge that this always was, is, and always will be Aboriginal land. And I think this is a particularly important thing to acknowledge, especially when you're talking about carers and caring, because there's a lot I think we have to learn from our Indigenous colleagues with respect to this and Indigenous knowledges. So thank you very much. So my name is Priya Vishwanathan, and I work in the Centre for Social Justice and Inclusion at the University of Technology, Sydney, UTS, and I'm in the Diversity and Inclusion team. So I work on a very wide range of diversity and inclusion projects, and one portfolio of work that I do focuses on carers. But at UTS, we believe that as public purpose institutions, universities have a responsibility to contribute to the community through research, education and practice. And social justice is really key. It's an important part of who we are as an organisation. So we have a social impact framework in place to formalise our social justice agenda and to structure our future endeavours in that space as well. The work we do in relation to supporting staff carers fits in with the domains of the social impact framework. For instance, that staff are supported to maximise their social impact, that UTS is an advocate, critical voice and thought leader on issues that concern and impact communities, as an example. Ensuring our initiatives align to key organisational objectives in this way is essential because it helps with leadership buy-in as well. And we're lucky to have Professor Shirley Alexander, who's a senior leader at UTS, who has stepped up to champion some of our carer initiatives and share her personal experience as a carer, which has been really, really valuable and effective for us. So UTS, I'm very proud to say, were recognised as the first organisation to become accredited in level 1 of the Carers Plus Employers program. Yeah, this is something I'm really proud of, but I have to say that we are by no means perfect. There is a lot more that we can do, and we need to recognise that, but we're demonstrating an active commitment to action in this space. That's definitely the case. We're in the unique position of having the Centre for Carers Research within UTS, and the centre receives funding from New South Wales Department of Communities and Justice. I have a strong connection with the centre, and I believe this strengthens the work that we do as we strive for evidence-based practice. So we don't always just pull things out of a hat. There's a strong connection between research and practice. UTS have a dedicated paid position as well of a carer-in-residence based at the centre. This is a 1 day a week role, and it's funded for a 12-month period. And the role provides flexible, respectful work to a promising researcher who's also a carer. Having this role is unique, and it enables us to deepen and ground carers research with the lived experience of a carer. And the carer-in-residence has done amazing work, both of them, in terms of raising awareness about the role of carers, especially in the workplace. And as part of their role, the carer-in-residence has a blog through which they share their reflections as well. And pictured here, we've got Layla Freejat, who's our current carer-in-residence at UTS, and on the right side, we've got Tanya Teague, who's our former carer-in-residence. In addition to employing a carer-in-residence, we have a number of supports in place, and I've just listed some of them. So we've got an equity, inclusion and respect policy, which is inclusive of carers. We've got flexible work options. We've got, like many universities, we have a wide range of flexible work options, and we've been actively working towards normalising, mainstreaming flexible work, because we do recognise the importance of that. So I would like to reiterate what Rachel said with respect to that. And COVID has really helped with that as well, like I'm sure it has for many organisations here as well. We have a research equity initiative in place. And we've had that in place for a number of years. The initiative includes a number of financial grants for academic research staff who are carers. And currently we're offering a grant for carers to ease the burden of COVID. So that grant allows for people to put in an application for financial support to do with things like housekeeping and transport costs as well. And I understand it's been really popular so far, so that's great. In STEM faculties in particular, we've implemented core meeting hours guides, which limits meetings and events so they don't run past 4 p.m. And that was specifically intended for carers and parents. And over the years, we've had Carers New South Wales run some amazing educational seminars for our staff, including getting prepared when someone you know is ageing. And that's been received really positively by our staff as well. We also have complaints procedures, so we've got equity-related complaints contact officers, and they also deal with any complaints should they arise from carers. We also offer services like employee assistance program. We celebrate carers in our community, and we run awareness raising initiatives, and there's a lot of communications that come out, not just during Carers Week, but through the whole year. So for National Carers Week for the last 2 years, we've put up case studies on our website of UTS staff and student carers. And we've also shared large banners on campus with the case studies on those banners to raise awareness of the role of carers. And this year we're also doing an art project called Making Meaning Art as an Act of Care, where people can explore the meaning of care through engagement in the art via social media, and also through a live performance on campus that's actually happening as we speak. Unfortunately, I'm missing it. But that's with the Centre for Carers Research. We're involved in that, receiving a grant from the Centre for Social Justice Inclusion where I work. And there's an artist and scholar, Danica, and another academic who are involved in that, that project. So if you can check it out on our website. It's also on Facebook. I just wanted to talk a little bit about one particular initiative. So I'm currently conducting research together with Senior Social Researcher Paula Gleeson and also our Carer-in-Residence, Layla Frijat. This research is funded by New South Wales Department of Communities and Justice. We had a UTS PhD student and academic conduct a literature review for us, which was really interesting. And unsurprisingly, research across the field consistently argues that the most effective way to develop policy and programs is through carer consultation. And so we've done some consultation with staff now and then over the years through surveys and other means, but we wanted to do a more in-depth and detailed formal exploration of the experience of staff carers at UTS. So we're currently undertaking this. Unfortunately, I can't share the full details of the outcomes at this stage. However, that will be shared in due course. But the first phase has involved focus groups with staff who are carers. The second phase has involved consultation with managers who may or may not be carers. And at UTS, we've conducted surveys in the past, including questions around carers. However, we decided to go with focus groups in this instance because we feel that it provides a really rich discussion. And what we've also noticed is, and sort of, I guess, some of the more unintended outcomes, but beautiful outcomes, is that staff carers have bonded with each other through the focus groups. And that's been really special you know, special to be able to observe. And also they've learnt from each other in some instances as well. And one of the staff carers actually commented that they found the focus groups to be therapeutic. So, you know, it was quite an interesting experience, and I guess I was privileged to be able to learn and understand the experiences much more. There have been some challenges with COVID with this, in terms of accessing large numbers of carers, and, you know, given the hidden nature of caring, that's been an issue. But overall, so far, it's been a really useful and meaningful exercise, I have to say. I just thought I'd run through, just give you a bit of an overview of some of the discussions and themes as best I can, given that it's not complete. Is that, you know, we've had general discussions about people's experience being a carer and working at UTS. In some cases, there have been discussions about kind of people maintaining kind of a rigid separation between personal life and professional life in order to be able to cope. So that's been really interesting. Where there's been obviously the diversity of carers and caring experiences has come up. So some of the carers that participated were lifetime carers. Others have been carers more recently and later on in their career. So there's been differences in experience there. We also had people who are past carers who talked about their experience of bereavement. So we talked a little bit about kind of how, we explored a little bit about how UTS could support people who are past carers as well. There were some differences between professional versus academic staff. We talked about the impact of COVID, and there were lots of positives that came up as well. We talked about workplace flexibility and support options in terms of carers' knowledge about support services available, what works, what hasn't worked for them, why they weren't accessing some services, and what more could potentially be needed. We also explored things to do with the workplace culture and empathy, stigma, the difficulties with disclosure of being a carer in some instances, the impact on career development, experiences of recruitment, induction, promotion, policies and practices. There were some cultural aspects that came out in terms of the impact on some working carers from CALD backgrounds. And we also asked some really kind of more open questions as well, like if you had a magic wand and waved it, what would you like to see at UTS? And that produced some really interesting results as well. So finally, I just want to really encourage those of you who are wondering whether to go through the Carers Plus Employers accreditation, we've done the level 1, to just do it. It's not too time consuming. I would like to reiterate again that the initiatives that you put in place don't necessarily need to be costly or complex, is what we found as well, to be effective. And at the very least, consult with carers in the workplace. So we've put quite a few initiatives in place, but I would say this consultations research project that we're doing, I would say, is one of the most meaningful steps towards ensuring that we're truly a carer inclusive employer. So look, this is an area I'm really passionate about, and if you'd like to reach out and talk further about this, I'm really open to that. Please connect with me by LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Priya. What valuable insights we've heard there, and what great practices, and certainly more to hear in the future. We're going to move quickly along now, and we're going to hear from James Casey from Macquarie. Thank you, James.
Thank you. Thanks, Rachel. My apologies to start with. I don't have a prepared PowerPoint presentation, so I'm sure that you're probably able on your device to minimize my head and my face so that it doesn't occupy the whole screen. So please feel free to do so. I was just looking at my title on the first slide, I think, that Rachel had put up, but I really should have, in keeping with today, should have just said James Casey, carer, because that was a revelation to me about 5 years ago. And as Rachel said in her opening, I thought I was a son, and that's the way I acted until I had a moment one day where I realized that I was actually a carer for my 91-year-old father and my 88-year-old mother. I have another sibling, a sister who's lived overseas for 28 years. So I suppose in a day-to-day perspective, I am the carer for my parents. Having said that, my mother is the primary carer for my father, who has dementia. And I suppose I'm a primary carer also for my father, but wear a second hat as being a secondary carer for my mother, who obviously in many ways in these situations when one partner has dementia and the other one is the primary carer, actually it's the primary carer that is the most, needs the most caring actually, and is the most stressed by the whole situation. So as I said, I worked out, and I can't really remember the moment, but I worked out when I was more than a son, and that starting to do my father's and my parents' finances and taxes, and applying for aged care and getting an aged care number and all those sorts of things actually made me a carer. And the odd thing I found was that I think I ended up becoming a better son, actually. And I was also a better carer because I'm the kind of person that needs a project and needs an objective. And when I was being a son, I was just being a son, maybe not that great a son. But when I realized I had to switch into being carer mode and I had to get things done and there was a list of things to do, I undertook it with the usual fervor that I do at work. And I'm sure, as I say, I ended up being a better son because I did make that mental switch. Very quickly, I do head up a business unit within Macquarie, but I'm here today because I'm one of 3 other co-chairs of our family and carers employee network group, sorry. We're one of 8 so-called ENGs, which form part of Macquarie's diversity and inclusion program and strategy. I'll get to that in a minute because I think that's absolutely fundamental in being an organisation that can see itself as being a carer-friendly organisation. So I'm the co-chair. There's 8 employee network groups within Macquarie's D&I, family and carers, wellness, First Nations, pride, giving, heritage and culture, just to name a few. There's 1,345 members of our ENG, and in fact, the smallest number of participants in any one ENG is about 1,000. So it has a lot of participation. In terms of family and carers, we were one of the first ENGs that were set up in 2014. But like as Katerina and Priya maybe, but particularly Katerina has mentioned, is that in the very early stages in 2014, when we first started our ENG, family and carers, the focus very much was on parenting. It was a very sort of narrow description of both family and caring. In fact, really caring was an adjunct to family. We've really made a very conscious effort in the last 3 years to really, if you like, shine a spotlight on the caring part of family and carers, bring that to life, and then really get some texture into what we mean by carers and all the different shapes and forms that can take. including being part of a team and therefore caring for each other as part of that team. So we've been on a really incredible journey, an exciting journey, and I think that's culminated in getting our level 1 accreditation. And again, like the other speakers, thank you to Rachel and the team there for getting us across the line. But in many ways, we didn't have to do anything, frankly, to get that accreditation. And that's not a reflection, obviously, on how hard it is to get that accreditation, but it just reflects that if you've got everything else right in your organisation, then really this caring accreditation and being a carer-friendly organisation should really just be the outcome of what you've done. So what are the 2 really big strategic pillars or foundational enablers, if you like, for us getting that accreditation? I think was number 1, having a flexible workplace. That full stop, end of story. We embraced flexibility 5 years ago. We're a very flat organisation. We have a small number of people. We've always had a culture of really high accountability. We also embraced a thing called Enterprise Agile 4 years ago. All these things really add to a workplace where we're not interested in line of sight management. We don't have to see the people that we manage. So we don't really care where they work. So we do the old hashtag work where it works. And we also have had the hashtag work when it works. So that was a firmly embedded part of our culture. And in our staff survey in 2018, so way pre-pandemic, 87% of our staff either had formal flexibility arrangements in place or were taking advantage of it informally. Personally, I was a dinosaur. I've been working for 34 years. I believed in line of sight management. But over the last 5 years, I found that I was working from home more and more. So when the pandemic did come, we were able to, within 24 hours notice, basically have 3,000 people in our Shelley Street office working from home, because we all had laptops, we all had mobile phones, we all had screens at home. We didn't have to write a memo to get approval to actually have a mobile phone. Everyone in our organisation has those bits of equipment. So really, the flexibility has been there for a long, long time. And as people have mentioned already, that is absolutely key to fundamental to having a carer-friendly environment. I think the second pillar that I mentioned is actually our diversity and inclusion program. We all use this phrase, I'm sure, in our organisation, but D&I was all about bring your whole self to work. It's if you choose to. But that was really, really important, that people be allowed to be what they are. And if they are a carer, then we wanted to know that they were a carer, if they were comfortable, so that it's important for colleagues and everyone else to know that. So our diversity and inclusion and our ENGs are really key. A lot of our HR policies are actually driven from the bottom up through the ENGs, believe it or not. So we've just released our Carers Handbook and Carers Handbook policy document. Now, that you would expect normally to come from a HR department. That actually came from our carers, family and carers ENG. That's a voluntary gig for all of us. But we actually shaped that document. We wrote that document. HR obviously had to review and approve that document, but that came from the grassroots up. So a lot of our policies and processes in the wider D&I landscape, but definitely in families and carers, that's actually come from our ENG and has come from the ground up. Our HR professionals also use the ENGs to test ideas. So I think that's what also means that we have success, because when we do roll out handbooks and policies and training and awareness campaigns like everyone else, there's a real authenticity in it, because that's actually come from the grassroots, from people like me who are carers and who are passionate about it. So to me, really, it's the ways of working and flexibility, and it's our diversity and inclusion program that's really been the fundamental reasons why we've been able to achieve that accreditation with carers and employers. I think that's pretty much it. Apart from all the awareness and the events that we do, a very, very small thing, and again, I'm sure other organisations do it, and it just hasn't been mentioned, is that I've got a sign off in my email, and let me just read that sign off to you. and it says, we support people with caring responsibilities at Macquarie. For me, this means I work flexibly to manage my work and caring responsibilities, and sometimes my work hours vary from standard business hours. Please read, respond, or action this message during your preferred hours. Now, I can't tell you, I've had that as part of my sign-off for 6-7 months. I can't tell you how many people, both friends, colleagues, and professional counterparties, they comment about that sign-off. I'm sure it will become ubiquitous, and it should be, but again, that just shows some of the small little things I think we can all do as organisations to really share that, to show that we are a caring organisation. So I think I'll end it at that, Rachel.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, James. Gosh, I'm really impressed and overwhelmed and grateful for hearing all of the speakers we've had so far. I have actually one other housekeeping item I should have mentioned earlier, and that is that this is being recorded. I should have mentioned that at the start. The reason I'm mentioning that too is because we've got so many wonderful presenters with so much valuable information to share that we're potentially looking like we might go over time. So anyone who does need to jump off near the end of this, please know that it is being recorded, and we will send you to a link after. Although we do hope you can stay on if we do go over a little. Enough from me now. I'm very pleased to introduce next Kim Brower, and Kim is with Sydney Local Health District.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Rachel. Yep, my name's Kim Brower, and I'm the manager of the Carers program in Sydney Local Health District. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm presenting today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I would like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and welcome all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining our webinar today. So like I said, I'm presenting from Sydney Local Health District. I thought just to start off with, I'll tell you a little bit about our district. We've got 700,000 people who live in our district, and 44% of those people are born overseas. In our district, we have 53,000 carers and a staff group of 1,200. And as we know, that probably means about 12% who are carers. And because health is generally a female-dominated area, the numbers are most likely a little bit higher. So today I'm going to be presenting on one of our initiatives, which is the Staff Carer Support Service. But just to give you a little bit of context, I'd like to highlight two areas that our district focuses on that really underpins all we do for our staff carers. Firstly, as the health service, we do have a strong carer focus. The result is that carers and the roles that they have is largely well understood within our organisation. The district's commitment to carers is demonstrated in a number of ways, including our Partners in Care initiative, and I suppose the existence of the carer program, which I'm managing. Secondly, our district is committed to ensuring an empowered and resilient workforce with a focus on ensuring a safe, supportive, and healthy work environment for our staff through increased healthy workplace initiatives. This commitment is highlighted through strong HR policies and staff wellbeing programs such as employment assistance programs. These two foci have been central in the development of our staff carer approach and our accreditation as a carer-friendly organisation, which we are extremely proud of. And again, like everyone says, thank you to Rachel, because we couldn't have done it without your support. So just to give you some background, in 2018, we administered a staff carer survey to gain more in-depth knowledge about our staff carers' experience of caring and working for the district. We also wanted to explore their unmet needs. The survey highlighted that 70% of our participants identified that they did not believe they were getting the support they needed, either from their workplace or within the community. And this was quite a distressing bit of information to know such a high percentage of people were not feeling supported. In the survey, we asked our carers about what they needed. we got a very strong message that the most important thing for carers was to have more information and services around what was needed. When we asked them what we could do to help, their request was simple: help us find the services and information in an easy way. And from some of the quotes, they suggested a centralized place for the information, a one-stop shop for carer information, and someone to check in with how they were going. And it seems like from previous presentations as well, that ability to find everything in one place is vital. So for that information, we launched our staff carer support service. Our service was launched at Carers Week in 2019. The aim of the Staff Carer Support Service is to provide staff carers with an opportunity to obtain tailored information to meet their specific care needs in a supportive environment. The service is provided by the carer program, and the delivery model is flexible so that we can meet the staff in an environment that is conducive for them. We can do interviews via phone, online, or face-to-face. Looking at our process, the service is available to all district staff with caring responsibilities. It's a confidential service, and people can self-refer. We're working off an assess and refer model with the aim of we don't have the aim of trying to provide a solution for all. Our aim is to ensure that carers know what is available to them and that they know where to access these services. How we manage the service is after initial contact, we organize a 1-hour wellness meeting. During that meeting, we do a brief carer assessment to uncover and to explore the challenges that the carers are experiencing. We then provide carers with the relevant information about resources and the services that may assist to minimize the identified challenges. It might be referral to our internal EAP service, or giving them more information about our flexible work practice policies, or it could be to external resources like to the Carer Gateway or about the companion card. It is also a great opportunity to provide some psychosocial education for carers, and we tend to focus a lot on self-care, as that's generally an area where carers often don't spend enough time on themselves. We end the session by developing a wellness plan for carers so they have a quite structured next step. We have follow-up sessions, which is provided to ensure that carers have accessed the support they needed, and also to identify if there are any additional issues. So that's just a brief overview of our program. We're really excited about it and think it has great potential. Our next step is to really, next slide. Our next step is to expand on the program. Like I said, we commenced in Carers Week, which is October 2019. We had met approximately 10 staff members. The feedback we received was very positive. Staff members stating how the new information had made a significant difference. And like we all know, then COVID hit. So the capacity of us to further market and deliver our program was extremely limited. So that, like many other things, were extremely frustrating and limiting. But what we have done, with things settling down of late, we have relaunched our staff carer support service this Carers Week, and we're hoping to really move forward with it. We also have intentions of researching the effects of the service, not just the immediate effect, but also to see if there is an impact 6 and 12 months down the line. So that's just a really quick overview of one of our initiatives that we are engaging with. I suppose some of our key learnings are also some tips if anyone else would be interested in initiating a service like this. The key thing for us has been flexibility. Carers are also different, and that's been mentioned a number of times today. People's lives are different, their caring experiences are different, so flexibility is essential. And this is from the delivery model to actually the content of the meeting. The next thing is resources. There is so much information out there about carers. So as a service, it is essential that we have a really good understanding of the key resources and making sure that they're updated all the time, because that changes a lot. Like we know, carers often feel extremely overwhelmed. So having some really useful handouts is essential. I've found in running these sessions, carers are often quite overwhelmed because it's the first time they've had a chance to talk about how they're feeling. So sometimes because of the high emotion, they may not remember everything discussed. So that's where the handouts and the wellness plan are essential. Lastly, one of the key things is the carer support. It is so important that the staff members are compassionate and non-judgmental. Like I had said previously, for many people, this might be the first time they're talking about their carer experience or realizing that they're a carer or bringing their carer self into the workplace. So the way in which we support them when we are having this discussion is essential. Lastly, is that, again, highlighting that this is an assess and refer model. We need to be very clear about the boundaries of our service. People need to realize this is a limited service and it's not counseling. And by being really clear about this at the outset, makes the whole process very, very workable and avoids misunderstandings. If people are distressed, we will then refer them to EAPs or counseling. So that's just our service in a nutshell. We're excited about it. We do believe that it's a positive program. And, you know, as I say, carers have reflected positively about it. And for me, what I found so amazing about this process is sometimes very small bits of information can change the world of the carers and their experience. So I think that's really the power of these meetings. So again, thank you, Rachel, for the opportunity to present and for approving us to be an accredited member, which is fantastic. And again, you know, carers are so important to the district and to the carers program, obviously. If there's anything anyone wants to discuss or find out more, I'm really happy for people to contact us. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Kim. Before we move on, just a quick change to the lineup. We're going to now be hearing from Sandra Hopwood from Uniting Local Area Coordination. Sandra was due to hop off at 1:30, excuse the pun. So without further delay, we'll hand over to Sandra now.
Thanks, Rach. So my name is Sandra Hopwood. I'm a project officer for the Uniting LAC program. I would like to also acknowledge the Darug people as the traditional owners of the land where I am presenting from today, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to any First Nations people joining us today. Uniting Local Area Coordination are partners in the community with the National Disability Insurance Scheme, the NDIS, and we are the LAC partner across 6 service areas throughout New South Wales. And I work in the information linkages and capacity building team. And our role is to inform, connect, help to educate people with disabilities, families, carers, the community in using their plans or accessing supports. I have a special interest in supporting and advocating for carers. At Uniting LAC, I am a champion for carers who are my colleagues and also as customers. I'm at the beginning of my own personal carer journey as a carer for my in-laws as they start to get older. But I did grow up with a close family member of mine who is a carer for her two children who have significant disabilities. So I've been around that caring role for my whole life. And I did work at Commonwealth Carer Respite back almost when they first started, which further increased my understanding and respect of carers and the role that they have. So we were fortunate enough to achieve our Level 1 Carers Plus Employers accreditation in December last year. Quite a few of my colleagues and I attended the New South Wales Carers New South Wales conference, and we're quite excited to be able to apply for Carers Plus Employers accreditation. And we are now assessing our eligibility to apply for Level 2. As we are a program within a large organisation, we're taking it as an opportunity to collaborate with them on changes that we might need to make to be able to be eligible for Level 2, and to also encourage them to become a carer-friendly organisation officially. By way of the work we do, because we are supporting carers as customers and staff, our workforce has a general understanding of care and need based on the work that we do, so that naturally translates across into the workforce. And we, Uniting and Uniting LAC, proudly represent quite a few diverse workforce, represent quite a diverse workforce across different cohorts. Again, as both customers and staff, so people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community, LGBTI+, people with disabilities, and of course carers. We have approximately 60% of our workforce are carers, so we are quite well represented in our program. So we have used a number of different ways to communicate carer awareness internally. So we had, so the Carer Charter is displayed in all of our offices, the New South Wales Carers Charter. We completed a staff survey last year, and we'll follow up again this year with a survey. Carers Week last year, we celebrated by handing out thank you bags to carers. We promoted the carer representation program internally to staff. And this year for Carers Week, we presented every staff member, regardless of whether they were a carer or not, with a postcard that was thanking all of our carers that are staff, but also to help to raise awareness. Obviously, it's a common thing that a lot of people don't realise that they are a carer. So we've got some questions on the back of that postcard with things such as, do you support your elderly parents with their shopping? Do you drive your aunt who has a chronic illness to medical appointments? Do you support a friend with emotional support? So it's a way of us encouraging our staff members to recognise if they may be a carer, or they could potentially then recognise that a colleague is a carer or a member of the community or someone in their own families. We externally as well, so we have a couple of different external communication channels, and a number of our staff do follow us on our social media. So even though obviously our main audience is our customers, this is also used as a tool to support our staff as well. So we've supported Carers New South Wales with sharing NDIS and Carers Survey, the National Carer Survey, and then last year for Facebook we posted we did a post a day on different things of ways of supporting carers, and we are doing a similar thing this year. We are launching a video tonight that highlights some of our carers that are our colleagues, and that's launching at 6 o'clock tonight. Sorry, shamelessly plugging our Facebook page, but that's launching on Facebook tonight at 6 o'clock. So we are continuously promoting carer support across internal and external communications. So by increasing the awareness of carers within the workplace, we have been able to continue to support our colleagues who have the dual role of being a carer. We have been able to better support our customers who are also carers through communicating to our staff to allow them to recognise carers and what supports they may need. And we continue to keep carers at front of mind for staff so that their needs are considered when planning meetings and events. Carer support and awareness will continue to be the main focus of my role, and I look forward to working on a number of projects to assist them. And I just wanted to thank Rachel and everyone at Carers New South Wales for all the support they've offered over the years, and I suppose highlight the importance of that collaboration with a peak body like Carers New South Wales, just to ensure that we're providing the best possible support to our staff and our customers. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sandra. Thank you for those kind words. There's so much to say to the panelists today about all these truly amazing, insightful presentations, but conscious of time, I am going to quickly move on. Next, we'll be hearing from Jess Freer from Westpac. Apologies to anyone on the panelist team too who we're holding up today. I know we've taken you over time. These are just such amazing presentations that we're hearing today. I hope we'll gain forgiveness due to the incredible content that we're hearing today. So without further ado now, I'll hand over to Jess.
Thank you, Rachel. Hello and happy Carers Week to everyone joining the session today. I'm Jess Freer. I lead a number of Westpac Group's inclusion and diversity initiatives, including our support for carers. So delighted to be joining today, acknowledging the traditional owners of the land I'm joining you from. I'm on Darug land. I'm right near the Mulgoa Valley, an area that was often shared by the Darug people with other local groups to get access to food and water from what's now known as the Nepean River, a beautiful part of the world. I'm grateful to live here, and I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'm going to talk to you for the next few minutes about data collection and using insights directly from your employees to inform your approach to how you support employee carers in your workplace. My first lesson for this process is really thinking about your employees, or any employee group for that matter, is to keep in mind the guiding principle that design with us, not for us. You really need to do your research. You need to understand the group you're designing for and not base anything on assumptions. That's when you get into the scary place of stereotyping and bias, which can mean you're designing for the wrong thing. At Westpac Group, we've had a program offering called Carers at Work. It's been around for some time. But last year we decided to do a review of that program to ensure that it's still meeting the needs of our employees. Anecdotally, there was a few things niggling at me, which I felt like we could be doing better. We'd had one provider in place for a very long time with little review or update from what I could see. We knew the resource was really parent focused, despite being called Carers at Work. So I know that's an issue that's come up a few times already in the conversation. I, for one, first got exposure to this program of work when I was on the parental leave journey with my first child. So that's probably telling of itself. And I'm also very aware of the changing, demographics and the trends that we're seeing that would, impact the growth of the informal care sector. So, we have a longer life expectancy. We have an aging population. It's creating, this emerging, what we're labeling the sandwich generation. Not people who are particularly good at making sandwiches, people who are simultaneously taking care of their own children while they take care of their elderly parents. So we're also getting that demand internally. So particularly from our employee action group for our mature age workers, caught up in the thick of that sandwich generation, calling out for, that need for elder support. So this was all bubbling up for us. And at the same time, I was connecting with Rachel from Carers New South Wales. And we spoke about doing a survey to get some insight directly from employees. So it's exactly what I did. You can see a few of the types of care questions that I asked, made it super short, easy to complete, totally optional. We promoted it purely through our employee action groups, through our networks, through our Yammer, our social media site. We got a couple of hundred responses, which gave me a good enough amount of insight to figure out where we needed to go next. So I just want to reassure everybody that you don't have to wait for the big all-in employee survey. You don't have to have super fancy analytics to get this stuff. You can get it going off the scrap of an oily rag. So, and get some really good insight. So let me talk to you a little bit about some of the responses that we've got, some of the themes, some of the insights that came through for us. The first thing that's been brought up a few times already is, we were dealing with the legacy of this existing program, which was really blurring the lines between parents and carers. Not distinguishing just how unique those experiences are from each other. And even then, we need to recognise how unique the experiences of individual carers is. No caring situation is the same. So that came through quite strongly from the insights that we got from employees. I spoke before about the sandwich generation. That came through very strongly. We've got a fairly large cohort of employees who are caring for their elderly parents, many of which who are at the same time caring for young children or adult children. The survey as well, while we found that for those who were using the Carers at Work program as it currently was, they found it really valuable, which is great. But the awareness and the utilisation was incredibly low. So that really kick-started a process for us, which I'll talk about in a moment. Because the support that we have in place, many of the things that have been mentioned already before, like flexibility, carers leave, career breaks, employee assistance programs, we found were quite well known and quite well utilised across the carer community, which is a strong point. So we realised we needed work to do to create that extra level of support for our employees who are carers. On the most part, employees felt pretty well supported by their people leaders. They felt pretty comfortable talking about their caring responsibilities at work, which we thought was really positive, but it's definitely been a journey. Many people shared, it's always in the verbatim that you find the real nuggets of gold. Many people shared that they had in the past some inconsistency in the experience they had with people leaders and the support that they had. So there's a good change in the wind in terms of the capabilities and the support and understanding of people leaders around carers, but I think there's still more work to do there. Accessing carers leave through the same pool of leave as sick or personal leave was a challenge that was brought up by some of our employees, some who had used up their sick leave caring for others and didn't have any remaining to care for themselves. So something else that we were able to trigger out of those insights. And finally, we talked earlier about flexibility. We noticed that flexibility is not a one-size-fits-all. We're a very large organisation. The ability to access flexible work is available to all employees through our all-in-flex policy, but it's certainly harder to make it work for certain roles, make it work productively without carers feeling guilty about, leaving their team members in a branch, in a customer-facing role in particular, where the schedules are really regimented and the resourcing is a lot tighter. So something that we knew we needed to look into. So I just wanted to share some of those themes because I gather that for many of you, there would be some similar themes that would come out of, if you were to do a similar process. But nonetheless, I do recommend that you conduct your own survey and do your own analysis, going back to my recommendation before, designing not based on assumptions that you were hearing from other places. I'm not going to take you through the data outputs, but I wanted to share a couple of snippets from how I presented some of this data. I see all too often, particularly for HR functions, really good at just sharing pictures and words, but it's really important to vary the way that you're sharing that data. Show the numerics, show the visuals, and give the commentary so you can graft out the insight and the why factor from what you're presenting. So do recommend use graphs, use data points, use call out boxes to showcase some of those insights. So a few things up on the screen for you now is some of the outcomes of what came from our survey in terms of the type and the prevalence of different carer types, but then also the comfort levels and how supported people felt and the level of awareness and utilisation of some of the support already available to them. So finally, I'll try to wrap up quickly for you because I know we're over time already. Where are we now? The insights from the survey, we use these to, as a key input to make a few critical decisions for our carer support. So the first decision was to enhance our Carers at Work program. So, that data around awareness and utilisation from the existing platform was a real Kickstarter for us to firstly go out to market and see what providers we needed to bring in to help support our employees. And then secondly, to really revamp how we promote and communicate the program, which we decided to do, a complete program relaunch in line with Carers Week this week really. So when I did go out to market and look at the providers that were out there, I used the criteria that I used was heavily influenced by what we learned through that surveying process. For example, we were looking to find a provider or providers who had really great engaging content for a really wide spectrum of carers. Not parents, people who could provide resources and support for people with a whole range of caring responsibilities, whether that's for you know, people who are frail aged, people with a disability, a mental illness, a terminal illness, etc., etc. So that was a really important part of our process, and also led us to the relationship we now have with Carers New South Wales. So very thankful for that. And we also included carers in the process to help us make some of these decisions. So again, design with us, not for us. So where we're at now, I'm really delighted to say that this week we have launched our revamped program. It's now called Parents Plus Carers, just so we can distinguish that it is about both. You know, as a result of the process, we established this new partnership with Carers New South Wales. We have continued our partnership with Parents at Work, and we've also established a partnership with Life Circle. We're about to rebrand to be called Violet, who provides support for carers for people who require support at the end of life. We've also introduced a new range of, you know, carer-specific resources for our employees. And we held some great special events this week in line with Carers Week. So Carers New South Wales came in on Monday and did a great session, with a great virtual session with our employees on carer health and wellbeing, which was, we had a fantastic response to. We ran a panel event yesterday showcasing you know, some of the great stories and experiences of our employee carers, which we're continuing to do. So you talked a little bit, Kim, about your, sorry, it was Sandra, about the awareness strategy. So that's something that we feel really strongly about, that we need to raise the awareness of the unique situations of our employees. So we've now built out a whole catalogue of real employee stories and their advice, which we're sharing through our comms, both internally and externally, to try and advocate for more carer-friendly workplaces. So next to go, we're completing the Carers and Employers accreditation process. So many on the line have already done that. So look forward to joining you as part of that group and find further opportunities for us to extend out our support. So reflecting on this, you know, I was asked to come in and talk about that data collection process, and it's made me realise that, yeah, that survey process really kicked off a whole stream of work that we, you know, to inform the entire approach that we've taken to refresh our support for carers. So a really valuable activity. You know, it's great to have the relaunched you know, platform and resources for our carers, but it's really just the beginning, where, you know, we're going to continue to promote it, continue to embed it, and then continue to look for opportunities to enhance that support. So as I said earlier, it doesn't have to be a big bang approach. Doesn't, you know, you can start small. Doesn't have to be perfect. You know, as long as you get started, you can do it today. So thank you, and I'll hand back to Rach. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Jess. So many important points that have been made in all these presentations that the attendees today here can really learn from. Now, we have our last panelists up now, and they deserve two special call outs. We've got Helen McFarlane and Christina Komitsidis from the Department of Communities and Justice in New South Wales. They are a program, they sponsored this program, and they've also kindly adjusted and allowed other speakers to go before them and have stayed on the line for us and adjusted their diaries so that everyone here today can hear from them. So I'm going to now hand over to Helen.
Thanks very much, Rachel. Yes, I hope other people have managed to hang in there. It has been fantastic to hear the wonderful presentations today. Hi everyone, I'm Helen McFarlane. I'm the manager of the carers team in the Department of Communities and Justice, formerly FACS. And I'm joined by Christina Komitsidis, who's a senior HR advisor in the Department of Community Justice Inclusion and Diversity team. So we're talking today about senior executive support for staff with caring responsibilities. And we are at DCJ, and our senior executive is committed to creating an organisation with strong cultural recognition and support for carers. Over the last 6 months, COVID has required a large number of our employees to work from home, and the application of flexible work policies has grown exponentially. Like other people, other workplaces, I think we've found that has increased our understanding of our colleagues' caring responsibilities. Today we're just sharing some of the ways we're supporting carers in our department. In a large department like DCJ, support from senior executives is really crucial. Just about the department, in 2019, DCJ was formed from the former facts and justice agencies. We've got a large, diverse and complex workforce with over 20,000 staff across New South Wales, working in child protection, courts, prison officers, specialist support roles, out-of-home care roles. So a really diverse workforce. We're working towards creating a carer-friendly work stuff for all of this diverse staff. Thanks, Christina. Christina's doing the slides. Thank you. DCJ senior executives are committed to supporting staff with caring responsibilities. Each year we have Carers Week activities across DCJ to raise awareness of the role of unpaid carers and the supports available in the workplace. This has included information campaigns and social events, and always supported by messages from our senior executive. Here's an example. We're not going to play the video, but in 2018 Carers Week, the DCJ Secretary, Ms. Michael Coates-Trotter, recorded a video distributed through our intranet to promote inclusiveness, recognition and support for carers. In February this year, Michael Coates-Trotter personally conducted a listen and learn session with a group of carers from across DCJ. So that was a 2-hour roundtable with carers from across the department who had diverse caring responsibilities, and provided him with a great opportunity to hear firsthand from carers about the challenges that they're facing, managing both caring and work. And this feedback's helping our people team to review and, where necessary, to improve our HR policies and practices. We acknowledge that having the right policies is only a starting point, and I'm going to hand over now to Christina to talk about some of our strategies to support carers.
Thanks, Helen. Good afternoon, everyone. Most of this has been mentioned several times today, but we'll go through it from a DCJ perspective. DCJ leadership and HR strategies support carers in a number of practical ways. Firstly, of course, flexible work, and leaders understand that flexible work practices are an important employment support that helps staff manage both caring and their work responsibilities. And we've adopted the New South Wales Public Service Commission approach of if not, why not for flexible work. Our strategic initiatives team have been running workshops called Better Ways to Work to gather insights from staff across the business around flexible work practices, and the feedback from carers has been overwhelming in these forums, whereby they're finding managing their work easier than ever with increased flexibility as a result of COVID. And learnings from these workshops are going to be integrated into the business as usual practices for the department post-pandemic. DCJ participates in annual People Matter engagement survey, as well as a number of other surveys to gather data. In the People Matter engagement survey, we are assessed against the previous year, as well as against the wider public service. Our leadership team ensure that these results and other data are used as a driver for identifying opportunities for improvement, and particularly in the areas of flex work and diversity and inclusion where carers are most impacted. When creating any policy at DCJ, the policy owner must follow a clear consultation framework to ensure that all diversity groups are represented to provide feedback and input. And this particularly in the carers context, they're consulted as a primary stakeholder. There's regular communications distributed across DCJ to support and thank carers in the workplace. So as well, of course, as celebrating Carers Week, we circulate surveys, host events, and share employee stories. Our diversity networks include a disability employee network, which has over 200 members, allies, and executive champions. This also includes a number of members who are carers. So these members often contribute significantly to network outcomes, and we're now looking at the opportunity to establish a DCJ Carers Network, which is really exciting. There was mention of EAP, and for the carers line here, Converge International is the contracted provider for DCJ's Employee Assistance Program. And like most EAPs, this program provides all employees and their immediate family confidential counselling, coaching and support, and they're available 24/7, of course. But what is really exciting about this EAP is that they provide a dedicated disability and carer line, which offers specialised support to assist employees who are carers. And this is a service that our senior executive regularly promotes, which is really exciting and something that we've had great feedback on from carers. I won't go into this because I'm conscious of time. I'll leave you just with one example of the staff stories that are shared at DCJ. This is Jo, and she's one of many staff at DCJ with caring responsibilities. So I'll leave that there for a moment, and I'll hand back to Helen now to talk through the carer strategy.
The commitment to improving recognition and support for carers goes across the whole of the New South Wales Government. The Government's 10-year vision for its carer strategy is that we're an inclusive and supportive community that understands that caring for and supporting each other are fundamental parts of life. And we developed this vision through co-design with stakeholders, including carers, and it does translate for all of us into the workplace and into all parts of our life. And I think it's worth taking into account. This week, Minister Gareth Ward launched the New South Wales Carer Strategy and its first 2-year action plan. These are available on our website. I'm very pleased to be able to state that one action in the new action plan is that we'll promote carers and employers to other New South Wales government agencies, and that DCJ ourselves will work towards level 2 accreditation. We have another action in the action plan is that our department will develop its own carers plan to improve supports for carers who are clients, carers are clients or employees of DCJ. So that's exciting work for us, and we were working with people across the department to do that. Just lastly, we were on the Carers and Employers program. We were proud to be the first public sector agency after UTS, as the first people to sign up, to gain accreditation under Carers and Employers. We celebrated this achievement in our staff newsletter, and the logo is now proudly displayed on our DCJ careers page. We are now building evidence to apply for level 2 accreditation, and the development and implementation of our DCJ Carers plan will be supporting this accreditation process. So thanks very much for the opportunity to join this webinar today. It's fantastic to hear from all the other employers, and we're proud to provide funding support to Carers New South Wales for this program. Please feel welcome to contact Christina or myself for further information. And I've put up the link to our webpage where you can have a look at the carers strategy and action plan. Thanks very much. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, Helen. And thank you so much, panel. Sharing your practices and innovations has really given us some insight as to what is being done. It's really exciting, and I hope that the attendees have been inspired by what they have seen and heard. At this point, I just want to do a really big heartfelt thanks to everyone who's been on the panel today. I couldn't have asked for a better panel and sharing in a way that will certainly benefit from anyone who's been attending today. Conscious of time, we've gone particularly late into time. Also want to thank the panelists who remained online to be able to share with everyone their workplace practices, and also to anyone joining us today on the webinar who we've eaten into your time. My apologies. We will send out information via an email to anyone who is registered for the event with any additional information. For me, if you need to get in contact with me, the Carers and Employers have a website. On the website, you can download 10 tips to a carer-friendly workplace. You can hit the contact button. That email will certainly reach me, and I'd be pleased to hear from anyone here today who's interested in finding out more. On that note, thank you everyone so much, and happy Carers Week to all those carers.